Hello guys and welcome to Lab 1. By now, you should have already completed the pre-lab activity, which required you to go into linked learning and watch a bunch of chapters about Python and Linux command line, in addition to finishing the chapter quizzes on each one of the two courses. If you haven't done that yet, I highly recommend you to go into the pre-lab activity, which is a separate folder than Lab 1 on eCampus. It's a PDF on it, there is a video on it, and just please do it ASAP. And now we're gonna start Lab 1. Lab 1 is, for me, one of the most important labs in the whole class. The reason is because you get introduced to this new world of robotics, and one of the main characters of this world is Python and Linux. They work hand to hand to be able to, for you to create your software and then test it on the computer that we use on the robots. Now let's just have an overview of the lab. Welcome to Lab 1. My name is Jorge Roa. You can call me George. I recently graduated from the MXET program as an undergrad student, and now I'm a graduate student, and I'm officially a graduate TA. Last semester I was an undergraduate TA, so I guess that's an upgrade. I expect you to know by the end of the semester how robots work, specifically how mobile robots work, and I want you to understand the software behind it and also the hardware behind robotics. I keep saying that the MXET 300 lab gives you a good picture of what a mechatronics engineer is, mastering both the mechanical and electronics of a robot. So we basically can design the mechanical parts of it, and also we can design the electronics for it. And in addition, we can write the software that puts both the mechanical and electronics together. So the objectives of this lab, specifically Lab 1, is to introduce you to Python, Linux, and the Cloud9 environment. We'll be talking about the computer that we use on the robot. In all the lab instructions, I will have resources. This will contain mostly videos and some web pages that will become useful for this specific lab. So I want you to always click at the links and give it a like, of course. It's not my video, but I want you to look at the video and then just try to learn what's going on. In addition, I always put the link for the playlist, the YouTube playlist that contains a lot of the Squirrel videos, so you can just play the playlist and see what's available in there. In addition, I always put the Squirrel homepage in case you need anything. You can quickly refer to the resources. On the resources required, you will need only the lab kit number 1 that I will give to you, and I will give one kit per group. And also you need your personal laptop. And in reference to the lab kit, I have a document under the lab tab. You cannot see it yet depending on when you're watching this video, but it's just a PDF that's gonna keep updating. But lab kit number 1 it's gonna be a 16 gig SD card, micro SD card, a micro USB cable, a 12-volt power supply, the BeagleBone Blue, which is the computer that we use, and a Wi-Fi USB adapter for your laptop, and then a 3D printing bracket to put the BeagleBone on. And this kit is something that you as a group will keep for the entire semester, and just make sure that you have these things with you every time you come to lab. Okay, I will be giving you more and more things until we end up with a complete robot. Back to the lab, I also have the pre-lab activity as you know, is a command line on Python on your own. The pre-lab activity is attached in a different document under the pre-lab folder. But in addition, I want you guys to download 3 things before coming to lab. I want you to download this image, which is it's gonna show up like this. It's a 15 gig image, so it's gonna tell you it's 14 gigs. You're gonna download anyways, and it's gonna start downloading. Depending on your internet, it's gonna take around 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So yeah, start the download. I want you to download the SD card formatter. Let me just go to the website so you can see how it looks like. It's kind of sketchy, but it's a good website. It's a good software. So here you check that you have any of these operating systems, and you keep going down, and then you'll see the Windows and the Mac option. So you select whichever is your operating system. I'm gonna select Windows. For me, keep going down, you accept the terms, and it's gonna start downloading. So yeah, download that. I already have it, so I'm gonna cancel it. And the last thing I want you to download is Balena Etcher. This is a software basically made to flash images, and we're gonna use this software to flash the image, that the 15 gig image that we're downloading. We're gonna flash it into the SD card using Balena. So make sure you bring all these 3 software and image with you. Now that you have all the required software and image, we're gonna begin the lab with task 1. Task 1 is basically installing and flashing the MXET 300 Spring 2021 Debian image into the SD card that comes with the MXET lab kit number 1. I just want to remind everybody that an image is just a file that contains an OS for a system like the BeagleBone Blue, that we use in the lab. Debian, which is the operating system that we're using, is based on a Linux system, and the BeagleBone Blue can run that operating system directly from its onboard hard drive, and this hard drive will be the SD card that I will give you guys. But before we begin with any software or any flashing, I want you guys to make sure that there's 2 screws on the BeagleBone Blue. So those screws are gonna be fixing the BeagleBone to its 3D printed bracket that I'm giving you as well. It's just good to say that the screws that we're using are M2, that's why they're so tiny. Step 2 will be flashing the Debian image, and for that we're gonna download the image. If you haven't done that, just do it now. It's gonna take like 20 minutes, so be mindful about that. So in order to start the process, you need to format the SD card that I gave you using the SD card formatter, which I show you how to download before, or any software that formats an SD card. I like this one because it seems to be the most effective and the one that erases the most space on the SD card. I have a video link right here, and that shows the process of how you flash an image into the SD card. I'm just gonna show you how I do it. So first of all, I have the 3 things that I need for this lab, which is the image, Balena Etcher, and the SD card formatter. I'll open the SD card formatter, and there is no SD card in the computer right now. Now you can see that the software is recognizing an SD card, and you can also notice that the size is slightly lower than what the SD card says, but that's fine. We're gonna still just make sure that's the only one. We don't want to erase anything that is not the SD card, and then just format it. Okay, hit OK. So that's fine. As you can see, in my case, it opened the drive, and it just says that it's empty, which is good news. So now I'm gonna do the flashing. For that, I'm gonna open Belena Etcher, and then we're gonna flash from file, and we're gonna select the image that we downloaded from the link. We're gonna open it, and then we're gonna select the target. The target is the micro SD card. Selected, just hit flash, and it's gonna write the image to the SD card now. So it's gonna take around, I'll say 15 minutes to write the whole 15 gigs. So just be patient, and I'll be back when it's done. Now that it's complete, I'm just going to extract the SD card from the computer and put it inside the SD card slot on the BeagleBone Blue. That's located in between the USB and the power input, but on the bottom side of the PCB. So the next step, after you have secured the SD card inside the BeagleBone, will be holding the SD button on your BeagleBone. So we're gonna hold this button right here, and we're gonna connect the BeagleBone's micro USB to the USB of your computer port. And then once you plug in and you see power going through the BeagleBone, you will release the SD button. And this process, you're gonna do it every time you change the SD card in the BeagleBone. So basically every time you put a new operating system on the SD card, or anytime you have to start from scratch, you will do this. Just keep that in mind for future. Once you release your finger from the SD button, you'll see that the BeagleBone is booting up by some lights that are gonna be flashing on the top silk. And the other signal that your boot up has been successful is that your computer will recognize the BeagleBone. After 20 seconds, it will show up something like this, which just indicates that the boot up was successful. The next step will be to retrieve our BeagleBone's Wi-Fi SSID, and if you're by yourself, it should be easy enough that you just go to your Wi-Fi networks on your computer, and you will see a BeagleBone network just laying around, and the Wi-Fi SSID will be these last 4-digit numbers and letters. In my case, it's B1B1. So that's my Wi-Fi SSID. But when you are in lab, you have your teammates. It's not your teammates, but your classmates also have BeagleBones, right? That means that all their SSIDs, all their BeagleBones are gonna have a Wi-Fi coming out of them, and you wouldn't know which one is yours, right? So that's why we have to connect our BeagleBones to the computer and access it through the USB in order to retrieve that number. You have the choice of following this video, which uses Mobile Extern, which is a different software than the one I use to achieve the same result, or you can just follow my steps. So I'm gonna just pull out Pori, and the host name is this one right here. I'm gonna copy that, I'm gonna paste it in here. I'm gonna open the terminal, and then it's gonna ask me login as. I'm gonna log in as Debian and make sure everything is lowercase. I made a mistake here, it should be lowercase, no capital letter, Debian. And then the password is gonna be temp pwd. I'm gonna press enter. So now I'm inside the terminal of the BeagleBone, okay? And all of this is done through USB, not through Wi-Fi, okay? Now I'm gonna type the following command to retrieve that the SSID. So journal ctl space pipe grep, and then we wanna find WL18, enter. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger and rerun it. And there's a lot of information here, but the number you should be looking for is this row right here, and at the end of the row has the whole SSID, but we just want the last 4 digits, which is B1B1, and this is the SSID of your BeagleBone, of the BeagleBone that you're using. So this number should match a network. So then you will come here and then you'll find the network that matches your number, and then memorize the number, because you're gonna be using it the whole time, and you don't want to be doing this process every time you access the BeagleBone, because you just forget your SSID. So just keep it in mind forever, and it's just gonna make your life so much easier. Now we're just gonna close up PuTTY. We don't need it anymore, and then we're just gonna disconnect the BeagleBone from the computer. Okay. On task 2, you're gonna access Cloud9, which is the IDE that we're gonna be using this semester, and then also inside Cloud9 we're gonna navigate the terminal to get you connected to the TAMU Wi-Fi network. So before we begin, I want to make a distinction between your home Wi-Fi and then the TAMU Wi-Fi. So the TAMU Wi-Fi runs on a different security level. It's a WPA2, and therefore it requires a username to log in addition to a password. At home, we just have a very simple Wi-Fi connection, which just requires a password and not a username. Since this is how the internet is at school, we need a special script in order to access the TAMU Wi-Fi. Since I am recording this video from my apartment, I will not be showing how to connect to the TAMU Wi-Fi. You can follow the steps, and they're very detailed on showing you how to do it from the school. In addition, I have a video under helpful documentation inside this folder. I have a couple of videos on just strictly on how to connect to the TAMU Wi-Fi or how to connect to your apartment's Wi-Fi. So now we're just gonna take our BeagleBone and we're gonna connect it to power using our 12-volt DC power supply that I gave to you. It's a barrel plug power supply. While the BeagleBone is booting up, I just wanna briefly mention the reason why you have a Wi-Fi adapter, a USB Wi-Fi adapter on your kit. And this is the reason is that we're gonna be using 2 Wi-Fi basically antennas or interfaces. So we're gonna be using your computer's Wi-Fi interface to connect to the TAMU Wi-Fi, and then we're gonna use the Wi-Fi from the Wi-Fi adapter just to connect to your scuttle. Okay, so as you can see, once you plug in your Wi-Fi adapter, you'll have 2 networks, and the first one will be your default network, which is the one the interface of your computer, and that one you will connect to the TAMU Wi-Fi as you always done before. But the new one, you're gonna use it to connect strictly through to the BeagleBone Blue. Now I want to take a minute to explain how all the network and all the Wi-Fi is set up. So I made this diagram right here to explain it. Right now your computer is represented by these 2 computers right here. So your computer has 2 Wi-Fi interfaces, the USB Wi-Fi adapter that I gave you, and then your computer's Wi-Fi adapter that it had from before. So in my case, Wi-Fi 1 will be represented by my PC's Wi-Fi, and my PC's Wi-Fi will be connected, if I'm at school, to the TAMU Wi-Fi, therefore granting my computer access to the internet. Okay, now the Wi-Fi adapter, which is this one right here, is connected to the BeagleBone's Wi-Fi, correct? However, the BeagleBone does not have access to the internet yet since we have not set it up. So that's actually what we're gonna be doing next, setting up the Wi-Fi on the BeagleBone Blue so it can connect and access the internet. The next step will be to navigate to in your browser. I recommend using Google Chrome, and on the browser you're gonna look up this address. This address is the server that's running in the BeagleBone right now, and that's where the Cloud9 IDE is located. So if in case you don't remember this address by heart, you can always go to the Scuttle GitHub repository, and then under software, if you go back to the Scuttle cheat sheet, let me show you here, right here in the BeagleBone Blue cheat sheet. You can see that important IPs is the one that we used before, and now this is the one for Cloud9 over Wi-Fi. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it up here, and I'm gonna enter. It will take some time since it's the first time we're setting up the server on the BeagleBone, so just give it a couple of minutes. Before continuing with the steps, I just wanna give a quick introduction of Cloud9. So Cloud9 is basically an IDE like others you have used in the past. A very famous IDE, which is the one I use the most, is called Visual Studio Code, or Atom is another IDE, but in this case we're gonna use Cloud9. The good thing about using Cloud9 is that it's running directly inside the BeagleBone, and you can execute files and everything through Cloud9, just because it's running inside the BeagleBone. Usually in the past, if you have an IDE on your computer, which is a separate computer from your robot, you will have to modify the code and everything on your computer's IDE, and then somehow transfer that script to your robot and then execute it on the robot. In this case, we're using Cloud9, which it just makes it easier for executing and modifying code without having to use two different computers. Now we're using one computer, which is the BeagleBone. Okay, so the first thing that I wanna do when I get to Cloud9, first of all, is go into my workspace right here. I'm gonna click in this little gear. So this little gear is gonna give me some options for my workspace. I don't wanna show the root on my workspace. Let's just not do that. We don't wanna mess with the root directory. We wanna show home. Up here you have the regular file, edit, view. So you have everything from new file, new template, and you have everything that you find in an IDE. Nothing different. One of my favorite tabs to mess around with is view. Here you can change the themes of your IDE, and also you can change your syntax and your layout. The layout is kind of cool because it allows me to manipulate my space very easily. You can do things like horizontal split, which is just making another screen over here. I'm just gonna close that like this. Okay, so now some things that you wanna keep in mind are these two different spaces. So you can see that one space is looking like blue, and the other one is looking like like it's missing something, right? So bash will mean your terminal. So every time you open something new, it will ask if you want a file or a terminal. If you make a terminal, that's how we actually gonna navigate through the computer that is the BeagleBone. So every time you open Cloud9, it's just gonna have one terminal open for you. You can open them and close them as you want, and you can open as many as you want as well. You don't have a limit for them. Okay, so And then up here, these ones, you can also pull out another terminal, or you can have a new file or something like that. Okay, and then you just write your code or whatever you want to do with the file. Save. Close all these. All right, close down here as well. So now that you are inside Cloud9, you can go up to the next step, and you can follow the video that's available on eCampus, so you can just follow these steps. Inside here, it's gonna ask you to type in the terminal. It's gonna ask you to type the following. You can just copy it from here, and you can go to Cloud9 now. And in Cloud9, you're gonna open a new terminal, right? So you're just gonna paste what I told you to paste, and actually just break it down for you a little bit. So CD, as you remember, CD means change directory. So we're gonna change directory to a specific address that we're giving it. So we're gonna change directory to opt scripts network. So it's gonna change, hit enter, and as you can see, this part right here also changed. So this shows the current directory where we're right now. So if you remember in the tutorial, it said that when you press pwd, which means present working directory, you know, if you hit that, it will tell you where you are, and that actually matches this, which is what I was telling you. All right, so let's go on to the next step. So now that you have changed the directory to the optional software available in Debian, we're gonna type the following: sudo bash wifi enterprise.sh to execute as root. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this again. Okay, so I'm gonna paste it, but I'm gonna just break it down for you again. So actually, before I run this program, I just wanna list everything that's inside this directory. As you can see, all these things are inside this folder. If I do ls-l like this, you're just gonna put it on a list. So you can see that we have all these green files, and these green files are basically finished on sh. Sh are bash files, so we need to open them using bash, right? So if you go back to the instructions, it says sudo bash wifi enterprise.sh. That means, let me just put it like that, Control C. That means we're gonna be using bash to open this script that is a bash script. That's why it's called wifi enterprise.sh, right? And also we're using sudo, which stands for super user do. So there are certain things that will require super user do, and you can relate this to something like admin authorization on a computer. For example, if you want to install something on a computer that's not yours, it will ask you for your password and everything, because you just want to verify that you are that person. So when you click here, sudo bash wifi enterprise.sh, it's gonna try to verify that you are, you know, the admin, right? So it's gonna ask you for the password. So temp pwd, and as you notice, I'm typing, as you can clearly hear from my mechanical keyboard, I'm typing, but nothing is showing on the screen, and it's fine. In Linux, passwords are hidden, so you cannot see it, but it's there. So you can backspace as well and to erase if you're not sure if you put the right password. Just, you know, over erase because you don't know where you are, and then try it again. Temp pwd, press enter. Once it finishes scanning, it will show you something like this, something like a list, in which is just labeling and Wi-Fi networks with numbers. So for example, you will look for the Tamu Wi-Fi, and then whatever number has on the left, that's the number you're gonna, you know, input, and then you're gonna press enter, and it's gonna ask you for your Tamu email, not your Tamu email, but your Tamu username, right? So the first part of your email, and then it's going to ask you for your TAMU password, so the same one you use for your email. Okay, so make sure you have that password verified before you actually input it here. And also as a friendly reminder, remember that we don't have we cannot see the the password is hidden, right? Since I am not at school, I am not gonna be using this method of connecting to the internet, so I'm gonna just cancel this procedure by typing Ctrl+C. So Ctrl+C basically ends any process that's going on the terminal, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm gonna change directory to home, and in home I'm gonna type the following: sudo con -man-ctl. So it's gonna open this. In here I'm gonna say scan Wi-Fi to scan the Wi-Fi, and then I'm gonna say services. So it's gonna show me the Wi-Fi services around me, and I'm gonna type agent on, and then I'm gonna select my Wi-Fi and copy this right here. I'm gonna paste it, and remember, I want to remind you that this is just for your home Wi-Fi. Okay, this doesn't apply to school Wi-Fi. So now I'm gonna say connect to that thing, and then it's gonna ask me for my passphrase. I think in this case it's gonna record the keystrokes, so it's okay. This password was made up for this, so I don't care if you have it. So this is the password for my Wi-Fi. I'm just gonna press enter, and it's gonna say connected to Wi-Fi, right? So now I'm gonna say Ctrl+C just to get out of the command-ctl program. And now in order to verify if I have Wi-Fi or not, I'm gonna go to the next step. To verify you successfully connected, type ping google.com. So we're gonna ping Google just to check out the connection. If it shows something like this, it means you are connected to the internet and you don't have to do anything else. That means you're good to go. So I'm gonna do that. Ping google.com, and it's showing me that I have connection to Google, to the Google servers. That means I have access to the internet. To cancel the process, just Ctrl+C again. And another way to verify you have access to the internet and to which internet you have access to is type ifconfig. No, sorry, not ifconfig, iwconfig. And iwconfig is gonna tell you that your wireless is connected to Jorge Wi-Fi and whatever. Anyways, that's how you connect to the Wi-Fi, and that's the end of task 2. Okay, so that's it. That's the first lab. It's very short, and it just introduces you to the BeagleBone a little bit, Cloud9, Python and Linux a little bit. It's a combination of everything. This completes lab 1, and there won't be any post-lab activity. In this case, there won't be any lab report. Usually, in most of the labs, we're gonna have a pre-lab activity. I will give you something to do, and lab reports are individual. That's a new thing. We're trying that out this semester. So yeah, make sure if you are online to ask your teammate to show and share the screen all the time. It's your responsibility to take the screenshots and take the pictures and ask him or her to share what they're doing. Make sure you ask questions. If you need to talk to me, you can set it up, you can put it in the chat and I will look at it, or you can just simply ask your teammate to call me, and I wouldn't mind sitting with you as well to explain to you if you have any doubts or anything. I'll see you next time in lab 2.